TV7 Israel News is made possible thanks to your generous donation. Shalom ve'erev tov, good evening. Welcome to our daily TV7 Israel News Bulletin, broadcast from Jerusalem. Israel's top political and military brass are preparing for growing prospects that the diplomatic track between the United States and the Ayatollah regime in Iran may soon collapse. German Chancellor Friedrich Merz voices frustration, dubbing the war in Iran totally unnecessary. And Hezbollah categorically rejects direct negotiations between Lebanon and Israel, pledging not to abandon its weapons and persist in its war against the Jewish state. Israel's top political and military brass are preparing for growing prospects that the diplomatic track between the United States and the Ayatollah regime in Iran may soon collapse. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu met yesterday evening with leaders of his government's coalition parties, after which he convened Jerusalem's security cabinet amid Israeli assessments that the diplomatic track to resolve Tehran's malign ambitions are running their course. As Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi traveled to Pakistan twice over the weekend in an attempt to secure American concessions that would allow the Ayatollah regime retain its nuclear and ballistic missile programs intact, alongside the IRGC's unwavering position vis-à-vis support for its regional terror setup of Shiite proxies. Nevertheless, to the clear dismay of the Ayatollah regime, the United States has not capitulated.
Pakistan is playing an important mediating role in the negotiations between Iran and the United States. It was necessary to have a review of the latest situation. In any case, developments have occurred in the negotiations. The Americans' approaches caused the previous round of talks, despite the progress that had been made, not to reach its objectives. The excessive demands they made and the incorrect approaches they adopted. It was necessary for us to have consultations with our friends in Pakistan to examine the latest situation.
Following the announcement that White House envoys Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner would travel to Islamabad to further proceed with negotiations over the weekend, the Islamic Republic's refusal to concede to any American demands, even backtracking on prior concessions, President Donald Trump decided to abruptly end the talks unless the Ayatollah regime changes its tone.
Okay, you probably heard that we canceled the trip. We have all the cards. We're not going to spend 15 hours in airplanes all the time going back and forth to be giving a document that was not good enough. And so we'll deal by telephone, and they can call us anytime they want. Again, we have all the cards.
Immediately after the announced decision by President Trump, Iran had submitted to the Pakistani mediators, quote, a new and improved proposal. Nevertheless, the latest proposal also falls short from American demands. It is worth highlighting that Germany has sought to provide the United States' diplomatic push tailwinds, pledging to gradually lift EU sanctions from Iran once a comprehensive deal is achieved.
Die Verhandlungen müssen jetzt fortgesetzt werden. Darauf drängen wir ja.
The negotiations must now continue. That is what we are pushing for. Iran is playing for time, and we must therefore step up the pressure on Iran. If a comprehensive agreement is to be reached, then we are also prepared to ease the sanctions gradually. But we are not there yet. That now depends very much on how the talks turn out. The easing of sanctions can be part of a process in which we are now involved in this way. And nobody has objected to that. It has also been proposed by others. That is, so to speak, part of the contribution we can make to advance this process and, hopefully, lead to a lasting ceasefire. There must now be a swift, clear agreement on freedom of navigation in the Strait of Hormuz. Secondly, we need a definitive end to the Iranian nuclear program. And finally, thirdly, Israel must no longer be threatened. Iran must stop threatening Israel and its neighbors.
Subsequently, after returning to Germany, Chancellor Friedrich Merz showcased clear frustration over the looming collapse of the talks going as far as to define the war against the Ayatollah regime in Iran as totally unnecessary, which is a 180-degree shift from his previously stated position.
I returned late last night from Cyprus. Why? Because we spent 2 days sitting down with the 27 heads of state and government of the European Union to discuss how to tackle the major challenges that lie ahead in Iran with the Iran conflict, with this totally unnecessary war there, and with many other challenges we are facing. We cannot solve these problems on our own. We can only solve them together with Europe. And if Europe fails, Germany fails too, ladies and gentlemen.
It is important to explain that while the United States and Israel have gone to war to ensure Iran does not attain nuclear weapon capabilities, the Ayatollah regime in Iran is making every effort to make the war about the Strait of Hormuz in particular and freedom of navigation at large. Nevertheless, while the terror regime in Tehran is trying to hold the world economy hostage by harassing commercial shipping, the American naval blockade on Iran is reportedly causing far more damage to the Ayatollah regime than what it is letting on. According to separate reports, Iran is facing an acute shortage of basic needs, with some food products exceeding a staggering 1,000%. Moreover, once Iran is forced to halt its energy production, which is estimated between 1 to 3 weeks from today, the economic backlash will reach a new historic low for Iran of unprecedented proportions. Meanwhile, in Washington, following an assassination attempt at a White House Correspondents' Dinner, President Trump was asked whether there was any indication that Iran was behind the latest failed attempt on his life.
Is there any indication that this shooting could have been linked to the war in Iran?
I don't think so, but you never know.
President Trump continued by stressing the core objective of the war against the Ayatollah regime in Iran.
We can't let them get a nuclear weapon. Everything will be peanuts compared to that if they ever were given a nuclear weapon, and they'd use it too. Marco and I were talking about it today. They would use it without even hesitation. We can't do that. And I said, we're going to have to make a journey to Iran. They're going to have a nuclear weapon if we don't do it. We had the B-2 bombers take them out. I terminated in the first term the Obama agreement, the Iran nuclear agreement, which was a disaster. That was a road to a nuclear weapon. They would have used it. They would have used it 100%. So, when you do things like that, you become a target. It comes with the territory. And if you want to do a great job, I really believe that. And you take a look at what's happened to some of our greatest presidents, and it doesn't happen to people that don't do anything. And it's not going to deter me from winning the war in Iran. I don't know if that had anything to do with it. I really don't think so, based on what we know.
Meanwhile, during a cabinet meeting in Jerusalem, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu opened by voicing his relief that President Trump and his cabinet members emerged unharmed from the abhorrent assassination attempt that took place over the weekend.
Like you, my wife and I were shocked to hear about the repeated attempt to assassinate President Trump and his wife. We were glad that both of them, along with senior U.S. government officials, emerged unharmed. There is no place for violence, not against political leaders and not against anyone.
It is important to highlight that Hezbollah has resumed its attacks against Israel's northern residents over the weekend, launching multiple attack drones and rockets. In a letter published by Hezbollah Secretary General Naim Qassem, he stated, quote, "We categorically reject direct negotiations with Israel. The Lebanese government must halt direct negotiations and rescind its decision to criminalizing our military wing. We do not recognize these direct negotiations or their outcomes. We will continue our resistance and will not return to the pre-March 2nd situation. We will not abandon our weapons, and the Israeli enemy will not remain on a single inch of our occupied land, and our people will return to their lands to the very last centimeter." Consequently, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu instructed the military to ramp up its offensive against the Iranian proxy in Lebanon within the boundaries of restrictions dictated by the Trump administration.
Regarding Lebanon, one might get the impression that the IDF is not active there. It is active, and it is acting with force. It must be understood that Hezbollah's violations are essentially disintegrating the ceasefire. Therefore, as far as we are concerned, what obligates us is the security of Israel, the security of our soldiers, and the security of our communities. We are acting vigorously according to the rules we agreed upon with the United States, and incidentally, with Lebanon as well. This means freedom of action, not only to respond to attacks, which is obvious, but to thwart immediate threats and also to neutralize emerging threats. In the past 2 weeks, according to Northern Command, we have eliminated 46 terrorists, and we will act with a strong hand and an outstretched arm. We are not prepared to accept this lawlessness. We will do whatever is necessary to restore security to the north.
Thank you for watching TV7 Israel News, which is made possible by the generosity of our viewers. If you would like to help support TV7 Israel, which is exclusively donation-based, you can do so via our website at www.tv7israelnews.com. Please keep praying for the peace of Jerusalem and redemption of Israel. Jonathan Essen wishing you a Shavua Mevorach, and God willing, until our next update. Shalom from Jerusalem.